I knew something was off the moment I saw the patio chairs. 6 of them, brand new, perfectly arranged, facing the lake behind my house. My lake. They hadn't been there yesterday. Neither had the massive wooden deck someone built overnight. No permits, no warning, just there, jutting out over the water like it belonged. I'm David Kessler, 40, single dad, structural engineer, and the kind of guy who religiously reads every line of a property deed before signing it. I bought this house for one reason: 200 feet of uninterrupted private lakefront, deeded, documented, and deeply meaningful. After losing my wife 5 years ago, this place became sacred. My daughter Lily and I built a new life here. Mornings skipping stones, nights beside her mother's old lantern on the dock. It wasn't just land, it was healing. And that's when Karen Ellington came back from her HOA sabbatical. Karen, 58, self-declared community architect and part-time tyrant, had recently clawed her way back into HOA presidency, alongside her cousin, Janice, a bankrupt socialite with a fresh inheritance and too much time. Turns out Karen had redrawn parcel guidelines for improvement and handed Janice rights to the best part of my yard like it was a party favor. I found the note taped to my mailbox. For community benefit and lake access expansion, the Eastern Shore Tract has been reassigned per HOA vision planning. Thank you for your understanding. My jaw locked. They didn't just cross a line. They tried to erase it. Worse, my daughter asked why she wasn't allowed to fish off her own dock anymore. Janice's guests were now calling it shared recreation. That's when I snapped. I'm not a loud guy. I don't cut neighbors down or call the cops at the drop of a rake. But when someone threatens what you built with blood and grief, you do more than raise your voice. You draw a line in concrete and put a damn fence on it. Karen had overplayed her hand. She thought I'd fold politely. She had no clue that the guy across the street spent his weekends studying boundary law and drafting retaliation like it was a blueprint. Karen didn't just gift away my shoreline. She waged a full-on invasion. By Monday, Janice had a landscaping crew jackhammering turf beside our retaining wall. By Tuesday, a $10,000 floating dock was being installed, sprawling over the area Lily used to dip her toes every afternoon. And by Wednesday, a sunshade lounge deck went up, complete with Bluetooth speakers and an eco hot tub. I stood across the grass, jaw clenched, watching a man I'd never met drill into my property like it was his backyard barbecue. "You must be Dave," Janice chirped from her lounger, martini in hand. "We're so grateful Karen made this shoreline accessible again. What a gift!" I didn't reply. I just turned and walked back inside. Lily met me at the door, holding a drawing she made of the lake, except this one showed a big X over the dock. "It's gone, Dad," she whispered. "They're sitting where Mom used to read to me." That broke something in me. Something quiet, deep, and dangerous. Not vengeance, engineering. See, I designed buildings to withstand natural disasters. But what Karen triggered was man-made, full ego-driven sabotage. And I wasn't about to let her pervert policy into power. That night, I pulled everything out: property survey, title and deed, aerial records, soil zoning certificates, even a waterway dispute precedent out of Michigan I remembered from grad school. And yeah, I found what I needed. Water use rights explicitly assigned to my parcel in the original development charter. Lakefront integrity clause. HOA has no jurisdiction over deeded shorefront unless both parties agree in writing, which I hadn't and never would. By morning, my printer roared so loud it scared the crows out of the trees. I made 12 copies of my findings. And then Karen struck again. 2 white envelopes arrived in my mailbox, both certified. A violation notice for unauthorized plantings affecting neighborhood symmetry, referring to the wildflowers Lily and I grew where my wife's ashes are buried. A $300 fine for interfering with communal improvements. She called me a non-compliant individual. Her words. Make no mistake, Karen wanted me buried in boxes and bureaucracy. She played the classic game, manufacture pressure, make the neighborhood too hot to live in, and force a cheap sale. She almost succeeded. Until Victor, my next-door neighbor, knocked on my door with a face full of fire. "Read this," he growled, handing me a notice. It was almost identical. Only his violation was for an unpainted birdhouse. "She's fabricating these," Victor said, "and using HOA dues to pay her family." We shared everything over coffee. He'd served as a city planner for 28 years. He knew code. And across our notes, we saw the pattern. Petty citations, fake community grants, temporary structures built and monetized, and every improvement managed by Karen's inner circle. "Want to fix this?" Victor asked. "Build the one thing they can't debate." I knew exactly what he meant. A fence. 2 days later, the crews arrived. Licensed, insured, and led by a friend I trusted. We staked out the perimeter with military precision, down to the 1/10 of an inch using GPS and legal plats filed with the city. What did we build? A 7-foot steel-reinforced boundary fence, treated cedar, capped posts, triple bolted. Not just a barrier, a line of truth. We ran it along the legal end of my lot, cutting straight through Janice's patio hot tub setup. Her speakers were still playing jazz when we sealed the final post. At sunrise, she exploded. "You're trashing communal property!" she shrieked. "Karen will sue! This was donated!" I calmly rolled down the blueprint of my property, spread it on her cocktail table, and pointed to the surveyed shoreline. "This is mine. I own it, legally, permanently, and now physically." 10 minutes later, Karen pulled up in her trademark teal Jaguar, flustered, in pajamas. "This is obstructionism," she barked. "You're sacrificing neighbor harmony for personal pride." I smiled. "No, I'm protecting my daughter's peace from fraud." And then I handed her an envelope with my countersuit notice, citing property rights violations, attempted land fraud, environmental damage, and HOA overreach. She paled, then tried to laugh it off as technicalities. Victor stepped up behind me with his own camcorder rolling. Good, because the court loves measurable lines. The neighborhood buzzed like a hive for the next 48 hours. Some people supported us quietly. Others grumbled about disruption. But behind the doors, they were scared. If Karen could gift away lakefront land, what could she take next? Janice tried to argue I'd vandalized her property. But every photo, every invoice, every digital timestamp proved she didn't own a single inch of what she touched. Still, Karen wasn't done. The next morning, I got a certified letter. A $30,000 HOA civil claim for sabotaging communal goodwill projects and emotional distress inflicted on a widow in grief. It was laughably fake. Until I saw Lily crying because her chalk mural had been washed off by a sprinkler truck hired by Janice for dust control. That's when I knew. This wasn't about fences anymore. This was an engineered takedown of us. And my next move was going to be a demolition blow. I filed the counter lawsuit personally. Civil court, 2 counts, property encroachment and willful HOA fraud.
Victor helped prep my exhibits. So did another neighbor, Carol Stern, a former HOA board member who'd quit quietly months earlier. She handed me an old flash drive. "Karen has a pattern," she told me. "She gifts what isn't hers, masks it in vague bylaws, and bulldozes you if you resist." Inside the drive, screenshots, votes that never happened, approvals signed by board members who had been out of state. One was literally in hospice. Another passed away 3 weeks before the signature date. I brought it all. At our first hearing, Karen arrived in full regalia. Pressed suit, thick binder, crocodile smile, surgically attached. Janice followed, overly dramatic, in black like it was a funeral. Everyone could smell the theater. Their attorney made noise about disruption, civil hostility, and obstruction of community planning. Then my lawyer took the floor. We dropped evidence like hammers. Deed documents, satellite overlays, date-stamped construction logs, HOA financials reappropriated to land beautification, recorded threats from Janice telling Lily to play somewhere else, and an audio file of Karen bragging during a phone call. What David doesn't know can't hurt him. He's one angry dad. Neighbors will side with me. Spoiler, they didn't. During cross-examination, Karen crumbled. Then came the real blow. Drone footage shot by Victor over the prior 2 months. Not just of my yard, but 8 different properties. Each showed unauthorized community enhancements on land with shady connections to her family or poker buddies. One neighbor found out she'd been paying double dues for years, funding lake upgrades that went right into Karen's cousin's LLC in another county. The judge didn't even blink when he ordered the removal of all unpermitted shoreline structures, a $20,000 restitution payout, permanent injunction on HOA authority over personally deeded waterfront, HOA leadership overhaul with third-party audit oversight. Janice tried to protest, claimed she was just following Karen's generous direction. That's when the court clerk handed the bailiff a file. Anonymous tip. Inside, a digital packet labeled Shoreline Shuffle, containing HOA access records, emails, and maps altered by Karen's own hand. One file showed her pasting my parcel number into a document titled Lake Access Janice Draft Plan P3.2. There was even a Photoshop screenshot of them removing my fence from the official community map. Game over. Karen resigned that afternoon with no public comment. Janice sold her lake gear on Facebook Marketplace the next week, claiming she was downsizing. But the neighborhood didn't forget. We re-elected a new board, capped with Victor as interim president. Rulebook revisions, transparency guidelines, financial audits, and a brand new hotline for anonymous reports. But justice wasn't just about consequences. It was about what came next. So I wilted. At the newly reaffirmed end of my property, I designed a piece not just of wood and steel, but story. 4 stained beams, carved with my wife's favorite wildflowers, and the center, a small bronze plaque. The Liberty Line, dedicated to any neighbor who stood their ground. It drew more eyeballs. It drew change. People started asking questions, standing up. One young couple who nearly lost their backyard to community garden plans got their fines dismissed. Another elderly woman got reimbursed for 18 months of false late fees and a public HOA apology. I started getting emails. Lots of them. People wanted help, advice, a blueprint for standing up to fake inspections, backdoor rulings, out-of-control HOA boards. So I launched a side business, Fence Line Defense, a consulting gig for small homeowners stuck in HOA hell. It took off faster than I expected. Turns out, thousands of folks across the country were living under some version of the same nightmare we just escaped. I helped them document violations, understand rights, and craft low-cost defense strategies using their own covenants against the enforcers. Victor joined in. So did Carol. We were finished being silent. As for Karen, 1 month post-resignation, she tried applying to another HOA in a high-end neighborhood 2 counties over. Her application was flagged. Disqualified. Apparently, viral HOA horror stories do have practical use. The Silver Lake saga gained traction online. A Reddit post of Janice's hot tub being craned off my yard went viral, over 2 million views. People asked, was it overkill? Was there a better way? Did a fence solve anything? Here's my answer. Fences don't just keep people out. They draw lines where others blurred them. They came after my daughter's peace, my wife's memory, and my right to a lake I paid for. No, I didn't go too far. I went just far enough. Was this justice or just escalation? Would you have built a fence or torn one down? Have you ever watched an HOA overstep and thought, not on my land? Drop your take in the comments. Like if this struck a nerve. Subscribe for more civilized rebellions.